You know that biting chill when the wind cuts through your jacket, no matter how modern and insulated it claims to be? Now imagine living in a drafty hut with no central heating, no electricity, and winters that could be long, brutal, and merciless. For the medieval peasant, knight, monk, or merchant, surviving the cold was not about comfort, it was about life or death. And yet they managed. They built a clothing system of layers so effective that many of these techniques rival, and in some ways even surpass modern fleece and synthetics. Today, we are going to uncover 10 medieval winter clothing layers that trapped heat better than fleece. You will see how ordinary people, often with few resources, found ingenious ways to stay warm. By the end, you may never look at that fluffy sweater in the same way again. The medieval world stretched across climates. Winters in northern Europe could be punishing with heavy snow and icy winds, while milder Mediterranean winters still brought damp chills that could seep into the bones. Peasants working in the fields, shepherds guarding flocks, and soldiers on campaign all faced the same problem: how to keep body heat in and the cold out. The answer was layers. Medieval clothing was rarely one piece. It was a system designed with both practicality and insulation in mind. Wool, linen, fur, and leather were the foundation, but the way they were combined and layered made them so effective. Let's walk through 10 specific layers that kept people alive through winters that would test even us today. 1. The linen undershirt, the first line of defense. Every outfit began with linen. The basic undertunic or shirt was usually made of woven flax fibers. Linen does not provide much warmth on its own, but it serves a crucial purpose. It absorbs sweat and keeps moisture away from the skin. In winter, this mattered immensely. Anyone who has spent time outside in the cold knows that once sweat soaks your clothing, you are at risk of freezing. Medieval people understood this intuitively. A fresh linen shift or undershirt created a dry barrier. It meant that the layers above could focus on trapping heat instead of being dampened by body moisture. The shirt was often long, reaching mid-thigh or even lower, and it could be doubled up. While fleece may feel warm, it struggles when wet. Linen, combined with clever layering, ensured that heat retention started with dryness. This base layer was the foundation upon which everything else was built. 2. The woolen tunic, everyday armor against the cold. Above the linen came the tunic, usually made of wool. It was the workhorse of medieval winter clothing. The wool fibers have tiny crimped structures that trap air pockets, making them excellent insulators. Even when damp, wool retains warmth. This made it far superior to most modern fabrics before the invention of high-tech synthetics. The tunic was cut generously to allow free movement. For peasants, it was the garment worn for fieldwork. For merchants, it could be decorated, dyed, or lined. But the function was the same: warmth. In especially cold regions, tunics were worn in multiples. Imagine layering 2 or 3 wool tunics over each other. Each added a new layer of trapped air. When compared to fleece, wool tunics often outperformed in durability. A wool garment could last years, resist rain, and protect from wind. Fleece may feel light and cozy, but a medieval wool tunic was the dependable shield that stood between the body and the freezing winds of January. 3. The padded gambeson, insulation with a punch. Many imagine the gambeson as a military garment worn under armor, and that is true. But what is less often appreciated is that the gambeson was also one of the most effective cold-weather garments in the medieval wardrobe. Stuffed with layers of linen or wool and stitched tightly, the gambeson was essentially a medieval quilted jacket, provided insulation by trapping air between its many layers. Knights valued it not only for absorbing the shock of blows, but also for keeping them warm in freezing campaigns. For ordinary people, simplified quilted jackets existed as well. They might not be as thick as a knight's gambeson, but they worked on the same principle. The layering of fabric upon fabric created a wall against the cold. Modern fleece may boast lightness, but the gambeson proves that carefully layered textiles can rival or exceed it. A soldier sleeping outdoors with only a gambeson could survive nights that might otherwise prove deadly. Number 4. Woolen hose, the forgotten leg insulation. When we think of warmth, we often focus on the torso. But medieval people knew that keeping the legs insulated was just as important. Enter the woolen hose. These were tight-fitting leg coverings, often reaching the waist and tied to a belt or doublet. Made of knitted or woven wool, hose trapped heat close to the skin. In winter, additional layers could be added. A pair of thick hose, combined with long boots, gave peasants or travelers the ability to trek through snow without succumbing to frostbite. Modern fleece leggings may offer comfort, but hose were tailored to fit snugly and layered smartly. Combined with tunics and cloaks, they sealed in warmth. Surviving medieval winters was not about comfort fashion. It was about practicality. This made sure no part of the body was left exposed. 5. Cloaks and mantles. The medieval thermal blanket, one of the most iconic garments of the Middle Ages, was the cloak. Fastened at the shoulder or throat, the cloak was more than a dramatic fashion statement. It was the medieval thermal blanket. Made from heavy wool, sometimes lined with fur, the cloak could wrap entirely around the body. Its size made it versatile. In the day, it was outerwear. At night, it doubled as a blanket. For travelers sleeping outdoors, a cloak could mean the difference between frostbite and survival. Unlike fleece jackets that only cover part of the body, a cloak enveloped its wearer. The overlapping folds created multiple insulating layers. In rain or snow, cloaks often had lanolin-rich wool that resisted water. The image of a peasant huddled in a cloak before a fire is not just romantic, it is accurate and practical. Cloaks were essential for enduring the medieval winter. 6. The hood or chaperone, protecting head and neck. Heat escapes the body fastest through the head and neck. Medieval people knew this long before modern science confirmed it. That is why hoods were so central to winter clothing. The hood, sometimes part of the cloak and sometimes separate, covered the head, ears, and often the shoulders. The later chaperone was a more elaborate version, but the principle remained the same. Lined with fur or wool, the hood sealed in heat where the body loses it most rapidly. Compare this with modern fleece hats. While warm, they usually cover only the head. A medieval hood extended warmth down the neck and chest. Combined with a cloak, it created a near-seamless barrier against icy winds. To medieval villagers, a hood was not just fashion, it was life-saving insulation. 7. Fur-lined surcoats and coats. Luxury meets survival. For those who could afford it, fur was the ultimate medieval insulator. Surcoats, or coats lined with rabbit, fox, or even sheepskin, offered unmatched heat retention. The fur trapped warm air while blocking wind. Peasants rarely had access to full fur garments, but they often patched their cloaks or hoods with small pieces of fur. Even a bit of rabbit fur sewn inside a sleeve could make a difference. For the wealthy, fur-lined coats were not just luxury, they were essential survival tools, especially during travel. Compared to fleece, fur offered natural heat trapping combined with durability. It resisted wear and could last generations. In the medieval mindset, fur was more than style. It was armor against winter's cruelty. 8. Layered mittens and gloves. Keeping hands alive. Cold hands are not just uncomfortable. In medieval winters, they could be dangerous. Frostbite was a real threat. To combat this, layered mittens and gloves were common. Woolen mittens provided a first barrier. Over these, leather or fur mitts could be added. The mitten design, which keeps fingers together, was warmer than separate gloves. Shepherds, hunters, and soldiers all relied on them. Modern fleece gloves are often slim and stylish, but medieval mittens embraced bulk. The focus was survival. Hands that could still grip tools or reins meant survival for families and communities. 9. The doublet and layered vests, sealing the core. The medieval doublet was a close-fitting jacket that often sat between the tunic and outer cloak. It could be padded or lined, offering both insulation and structural support for hose. Worn snug to the body, the doublet trapped core heat and prevented wind from seeping through. A wool doublet beneath a fur-lined surcoat created 2 pockets of warm air. This layering principle is what modern outdoor brands sell today under fancy names. Compared with fleece, which offers warmth but little wind resistance, the doublet combined insulation with structure. It was both functional and stylish, ensuring that body heat remained sealed at the core. 10. Boots, wrappings, and foot insulation. The ground barrier. The final piece of the medieval winter armor was footwear. Cold ground saps heat faster than almost anything else. Medieval people fought this with layered footwear. Woolen socks or foot wrappings came first. Over them, leather boots provided protection. In harsher climates, boots were stuffed with straw or lined with fur. The goal was to create multiple barriers between the skin and the frozen earth. Modern fleece socks are cozy, but medieval layering was more adaptable. You could add or remove wrappings as needed, stuff boots with dry grasses, or use sheepskin liners. For peasants trudging through icy fields, this could make the difference between frostbite and survival. From linen undershirts to woolen tunics, padded gambesons, hose, cloaks, hoods, fur-lined coats, mittens, doublets, and insulated boots, medieval people mastered the art of layering. While fleece feels comfortable today, it cannot always match the resilience, adaptability, and layered genius of medieval winter clothing. These garments were not designed for fashion or convenience. They were forged by necessity. They kept people alive through winters so harsh they could kill the unprepared. If you found this journey into medieval winter survival fascinating, imagine how much more there is to discover. Every garment tells a story of ingenuity, resilience, and adaptation. So if you enjoy uncovering the wisdom of the past and learning what it can teach us today, make sure you subscribe to this channel. That way you won't miss the next documentary where we explore even more forgotten secrets from history that still matter in our modern lives.